You know that feeling? The one where the ground shifts beneath your feet, and for a second you think it's your fault. Let me tell you right now, Chosen One, it wasn't you who caused the breakage. The splintering sound you just heard wasn't a failure in your character. It was the noise of their elaborate, well-constructed false narrative collapsing. For too long, you've been walking under a heavy sky of misdirection, where your very potential was cloaked in shame, doubt, and deliberate misunderstandings. They worked overtime to keep you small, quiet, and hidden, terrified that your true self might actually show up and disrupt their carefully curated order. They tried to minimize your name, but all it took was one single undeniable move from the divine, and the mask they wore, and the one they tried to put on you, shattered into a million pieces. You are a presence that cannot be contained. The moment you stepped into your authentic power, you didn't just join the conversation. You became the conversation. Your truth is a frequency they can't handle. It's too sharp, too resonant, and completely incapable of blending into the background noise of their lies. Your mere existence, your illuminated identity, sent a shockwave through their entire system. It wasn't a polite knock. It was a detonation. This is why you saw the sudden, irrational outbursts, the uncharacteristic errors, and the frantic attempts to discredit you. They were not prepared for the pure, unadulterated force of what you carry. The pressure gauge of their deceit finally hit its maximum limit, and when that pressure met the divine, unyielding bedrock of your reality, the only possible result was a cataclysmic exposure. This explosion wasn't about drama. It was the inevitable undoing of every lie they ever spoke in the dark. You are witnessing the final, ugly throes of a defeated pattern. Remember this, truth does not ask for permission. It simply reveals. They are panicking because they have nowhere left to hide their hidden agendas, their silent envy, or their years of subtle sabotage. Your light wasn't just too bright for them. It was a literal spotlight on their darkness. The one thing they feared most, your public, powerful, and undeniable manifestation, has now arrived. They are scrambling, trying desperately to regain control of a story that is no longer theirs to tell. This isn't chaos. It's the confirmation that your assignment, your very being, carries a weight that can dismantle established, corrupt systems. Your identity is a hammer, and the structures of limitation around you are the fragile glass. As the ancient wisdom declares, "For every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire." 1 Corinthians 3:13. And you, Chosen One, are that blazing, revelatory fire. Now, as the smoke clears and the deafening noise of their frantic opposition begins to subside, we can talk about a profound, eternal truth. The same weapon will never cut you twice. Once an instrument of warfare shatters against something stronger than itself, its power is permanently disabled. This is what just transpired. They came at you with their tired, recycled playbook. The same betrayals, the same heartbreaks, the same fear tactics. But this time, the attack didn't land. It hit the new resilient you. It's like a tired old cycle meeting an absolute unmovable end. Their strategy failed, and their pattern of control collapsed not because you yielded, but because you refused to break. Their relentless obsession with your downfall has now morphed into a self-destructive fury. A desperate spiral because their one guaranteed move, the move that worked on everyone before you, now lies impotent at your feet. Picture this profound image. They were the champion boxer, famed for a knockout punch that always worked. They threw that signature move with maximum force, expecting you to drop, to crumble, to beg for mercy. But you didn't. You stood there, still breathing, still upright, completely unbroken. That moment of survival exposed their limitation. Their weapon is now officially nullified, and their entire elaborate strategy has been reduced to dust. You have single-handedly exposed their true weakness simply by outliving what was meant to be your destruction. The cycle that once trapped you is finally starved. It lost its power the moment you stopped feeding it with your fear, your reaction, and your endless self-doubt. You didn't respond according to their script. You didn't collapse into the old, predictable drama. You grew. This growth cut the cord and the loop died, starved of your submission. The eternal promise states, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Isaiah 54:17. This word isn't just about passive protection. It's an active spiritual offensive. It means the enemy's blade didn't just miss you. It broke in their hand. The storm didn't suddenly run out of rain. It ended because you became too tall for it to touch. Your current stillness, your quiet, unshakable peace, is a profound offense to them, because it is living, undeniable proof that they failed spectacularly. They were banking on your complete public breakdown. Instead, they were forced to watch your radiant breakthrough. Cycles are built on predictable, painful repetition. But you, as a survivor who has claimed your freedom, are now actively rewriting the pattern. This is what makes you profoundly dangerous to the old regime. The old triggers, the familiar manipulations, the deep wounds that once could instantly derail you, they no longer hold the same authority. The pain that once cut deep has now hardened into an impenetrable layer of armor. You have developed an immunity to their vintage tactics precisely because they have no new ones. The power of darkness is entirely unoriginal. It only knows how to recycle old hurts and reuse old broken tools. But recycled weapons cannot affect a mind and a spirit that have been fully renewed, rebuilt, and divinely recalibrated. You have officially reached the expiration date of your suffering. That familiar nagging pain may still try to knock on your door, but the key it once held to your heart and your life has been permanently snapped off. It has no access. Let's be honest about the nature of that past pain. Imagine your suffering as a tenant that squatted in your home for years, trashed the place, fostered chaos, and convinced you it had a permanent legal right to be there. But every lease has an end date, and for you, that clock has run out. The agonizing echoes of the past may continue to scream and rattle the windows, but let this truth land deeply. They have absolutely no legal power left. The eviction notice has been served, signed, and enforced. The process is final. You are not just cleaning up the mess. You are actively reclaiming your sovereign space. If you ever wondered why that suffering felt absolutely endless, it was because the greatest strategy of pain is to sell the illusion of permanence. But like every season, it came with terms. The suffering was only permitted to remain long enough to serve a purpose, to forge you, to teach you, and to force you to rise into the person you are becoming. The moment you developed the strength and the wisdom to refuse to fold, the contract for its renewal became null and void. The suffering didn't end because your circumstances got easier, or because the world suddenly became gentle. It ended because you became wiser, stronger, and fundamentally changed. This is the key insight most people miss. Pain was a temporary visitor, not an eternal declaration of your identity. It carried lessons, yes, but those lessons are now embedded in your unshakable strength, and the unwanted guest has been permanently banished from the premises. Think about the incredible story of the woman with the issue of blood. Described in Mark 5, 12 years of unbearable suffering, constant shame, and complete isolation. Everyone had written her off. Yet a single determined right moment of contact with divine truth ended the bleeding instantly. This is the monumental shift you are in right now. She didn't wait for permission or public approval. She reached out and claimed her freedom, and the freedom met her halfway. That is the power of recognizing that your pain has an expiration date. Your old painful wounds once threatened to define you. Now they serve as your most profound evidence. You made it. Your enemies are disoriented, not because they're planning new, complex harm, but because they're tired, old. Favorite weapons are crumbling into dust in their own hands. More important than your personal strength is this truth. The law of heaven has decreed that you cannot be tried twice for the same sentence. Your suffering was real, excruciatingly so, but it served its purpose and its time. It has no appeal, no possibility for extension, and absolutely no legal hold over you now. Every single storm, every deliberate betrayal, every lonely tear, it was meticulously counted not for punishment but for redemption. When the final second of that season ticked out, the spiritual judgment was issued. Overruled. The sentence is completely lifted. The chains are broken, and the entire destructive cycle is permanently closed. You have shed the old skin of suffering. That suffocating pain cannot cling to you. It is dead weight, and you have already stepped into your new liberated space. Imagine a song of heartbreak that was stuck on a broken record player. The same setback, the same betrayal, the same crushing feeling looping over and over until the needle finally snapped and the tape finally broke. The song is finally over. A profound silence follows, and in that silence you hear a brand new sound: unshakable peace. This is the reason why your future cannot and will not echo your past. The entire soundtrack has been replaced. The rhythm of your life is fundamentally different, and the old, tired script has been violently torn up and discarded. Some will still ask, but what if it comes back? It cannot, not in the way it did before. The contract is void. The key is broken. The door has swung open, and you are already standing on the other side. Your enemies see this new reality now, and that is precisely why they are raging. Their fury is not a sign of residual power. It is the absolute evidence of their complete loss of control. You didn't merely survive the storm. You utterly emptied it of its rage and force. You didn't just escape the fire. You are now carrying the ashes as definitive evidence that it burned itself completely out in its desperate attempt to break you. You are living proof that pain has a quantifiable limit, that darkness has a deadline, and that the season engineered to bury your potential has already passed. You are not the same person. You are fundamentally free, not because the struggle stopped, but because you kept moving forward until it had no choice but to stop. Nothing, not the past, not fear, not any dark entity, can pull you back into a contract that God has already stamped and marked fulfilled. But let's go deeper into the burden you've carried. What if the weight you felt wasn't only your own? What if the intensity of your battle was older, deeper and more profound than your own lifetime? Chosen one, we arrive now at the true reason why your suffering felt so disproportionately heavy and utterly unnatural. You were carrying the unfinished, unwon battles of every generation that came before you. This is the secret of the spirit world. Pain is grievously inheritable. Families pass down more than money and traditions. They pass down trauma. Cycles of poverty, cycles of addiction, patterns of silent grief, and the bitter residue of broken love. For generations, no one had the pure spiritual strength to stop the relay. The baton was dropped every time. The race never completed until you. You didn't just endure your own personal trials. You were the one specifically chosen to take the full, crushing force of the generational strongholds that haunted your bloodline. And instead of crumbling, you stood. You crossed the finish line. And because of that final defiant act, the entire generational curse broke. The steadfast, unchanging love of the Lord is what you stepped into. And that is why the curse could not, under any circumstances, continue past you. You are the spiritual dam that held back generations of poisoned water. Every single crack added by those who came before you finally burst, but you did not drown. You absorbed the flood. You endured the intensity, and now those who come after you will walk only on dry, redeemed ground. Your tears were the final, ultimate payment on a debt that had been long overdue. What broke others didn't break you. And in that simple, profound fact, the generational curse finally met its match. If you have ever felt that the weight was disproportionate, that your life was a battlefield you never asked for, it's because you were chosen to end what others could only survive. That is why the pain was so precise, so relentless. Generational strongholds are stubborn, and they demand a payment. But you paid it in full. Your bloodline is now spiritually cleansed. What once stalked your family and destroyed your ancestors will not, cannot, and shall not touch your descendants. Your survival was not a selfish act. It was an act of generational redemption for all those who will never have to fight the war you fought behind closed doors. But the transformation didn't stop with your family tree. Here is the deeper, more profound truth. You didn't just endure the poison. You completely turned it into power. The betrayals, the soul-shattering abandonment, the long nights that almost destroyed your faith, they were all designed not just to wound you, but to fatally infect you, to leave you bitter, hollow, and chronically cynical. That is the subtle work of spiritual poison. But you didn't allow it to rot your soul. You transmuted it. You performed an act of spiritual alchemy. You took what was meant to melt you and forged it into indestructible armor. You turned soul-crushing bitterness into profound wisdom, isolating loneliness into deep spiritual depth, and public humiliation into powerful, unshakable discernment. You did not walk out of the fire as the same person who went in. You emerged unrecognizable. You have spiritually outgrown every single attack, every subtle trap, and every cruel snare set for your feet. Now, the exact same fire that was designed to consume you burns powerfully behind you as undeniable evidence, not of your destruction, but of your magnificent evolution. They expected to see crippling scars. They never anticipated your radiant resurrection. This is why their old tricks now fail to land. They are speaking a defeated language that your healed soul no longer even registers. You have been tuned to a higher, purer frequency of the spirit. You don't respond to the bait because you've grown beyond the old algorithm of their manipulation. Nothing recycled can break a soul that has been completely rebuilt from ashes. And yet, the darkness is desperate. Launched one final massive blow, that deep betrayal that hit harder than all the rest. The catastrophic heartbreak that felt like the absolute end of all things. The agonizing silence from heaven that almost cost you your faith. But here is the ultimate revelation. That was the final bullet, and it missed. What you just endured was not random misfortune. It was a precise, orchestrated spiritual warfare. The pressure, the unimaginable loss, the suffocating darkness. It was their final, desperate attempt to take you down permanently. And yet, you are still standing. When the smoke completely cleared, you were still breathing, still moving, and still powerfully becoming. That is when they finally realized, it's over. They have absolutely nothing left in their arsenal. The enemy emptied its entire arsenal, banking everything on the certainty that the final shot would be your immediate and total collapse. But instead, it became their definitive public exposure. Like Goliath, who completely underestimated the one he mocked, they utterly miscalculated your spiritual strength. They didn't understand that beneath your stillness was the power of a warrior who was simply unwilling to break. That is why the battlefield is quiet now. It is not because you lost. It is because they lost everything. When the enemy has fired its last, most powerful shot and failed, you are guaranteed that nothing lesser can ever succeed against you. If you have been asking, will it come back? Will I have to endure that battle again? The answer is a resounding, eternal no. The weapon is spent. The curse is broken. The fire has passed. Your survival is no longer a question. It is the absolute, irrefutable proof. After that final bullet missed, an elevation occurred. Your survival didn't just prove your strength. It launched you into a spiritual realm they can no longer reach. This is why their arrows no longer land. The same old insults fall flat. The same manipulation traps feel shallow. The same destructive voices sound distant because they are not on your frequency anymore. The pain that once pierced you no longer even registers in your spirit. You have tuned your soul to a higher signal. The wounds that once attracted betrayal and manipulation have been completely sealed. You didn't just survive. You ascended. The war zone didn't vanish. You simply rose above it, setting your feet on a rock and giving you a firm place to stand. What used to have a crippling grip on you is now powerless. Your transformation created a new, unbreachable defense system. Where there was once crippling vulnerability, there is now spiritual immunity. What once could infect you, deception, manipulation, soul-wounding betrayal, cannot even get close. Your soul was forged and trained by the fire, and your spirit now instantly recognizes destructive patterns before they even have a chance to form. You don't need evidence to sense danger. You have discernment, a gift sharpened by survival. Every single scar became a piece of data. Every heartbreak became a lesson. You were blindsided once, but you will never be again. You have become a fortress, reinforced and completely impenetrable. They expected weakness after the storm, but what emerged was armor. And with that immunity came something even greater: authority. What was meant to kill you has become your permanent mark. You were supposed to break, to disappear, to be silenced. But instead you came back with undeniable evidence. A seal that says, I survived what was meant to end me. This seal is eternal. It speaks volumes even when you choose to be silent. It testifies louder than your words ever could. Your scars are not signs of failure. They are medals of honor. Each one signifies, I stood face to face with absolute destruction, and I refused to fall. This is why certain battles no longer even chase you. The darkness remembers its failure. The enemy remembers what it threw and how it still wasn't enough. You were supposed to stay buried, but what they intended for your death became your magnificent, powerful resurrection. You are now permanently marked, not by the pain, but by the irrefutable truth of your survival. Your survival didn't just change you, it changed the entire atmosphere around you. Doors open without you having to force them. Favor finds you without you having to chase it. Protection follows you without you even having to ask for it. Not because life is suddenly easy, but because your survival changed the spiritual environment. You carry weight now, not the crushing weight of pain, but the undeniable weight of proof. You are the one the darkness couldn't keep, the one it couldn't break, the one it no longer has any legal access to. You were never just a survivor. You are the living evidence that some storms fail, some curses break, and that some chosen ones will never fold. They will rise. But a deeper truth emerged as you survived. Heaven intervened. When your suffering became too heavy for this world to contain, your case was transferred to the highest court. Every tear, every false accusation, every deliberate injustice, it was not forgotten. It was submitted as evidence, and the final judgment came down. Case closed. You have been ruled over by the highest, most ancient authority. The permission that was once granted to torment you has been completely and irrevocably revoked. No matter how loudly the accusers scream, their voice holds zero power in a courtroom where the gavel has already fallen on your behalf. This is not just relief. It is a total sovereign release. That verdict didn't just free you, it crowned you. What they wrongly mistook for punishment was truly your induction into a new level of power. You were not just tested, you were initiated. And an initiation doesn't just measure your endurance. It fundamentally changes your very identity. The fire was not random. It was a necessary ritual. Every comfort that was stripped, every illusion that was shattered, every single tear you shed was part of the divine process that reshaped you into a commander they can no longer even recognize. You didn't just survive to prove your strength. You were being prepared to carry a new, absolute authority. You walked into the fire as a mere soldier, and you emerged as a commanding officer. The authority is now simply in your presence, and here is the final truth, the one they will never say out loud. They are completely exhausted. Every curse, every scheme, every single whisper designed to break you cost them a spiritual toll. Darkness does not work for free. It exchanges energy for influence, and the more they obsessively chased your collapse, the more they completely drained their own reserves. While you quietly and intentionally rebuilt yourself in silence, they burned themselves out chasing a ghost. Now, their tricks are brittle. Their plans are utterly predictable. They no longer possess the strength to continue fighting you because they already gave absolutely everything they had, and failed. Every failed attack was energy they will never, ever get back. You didn't just outlast them. You strategically depleted them. They are like a defeated army that fired every single weapon, emptied every reserve, and drained every last tank, only to find their target still standing, and worse, still rising. That is why they rage in silent, defeated fury. Not because they still hold power, but because they have absolutely lost it all. So here you stand, not only undefeated but completely untouched by anything lesser. What was intended to bury you became the irrefutable, undeniable proof that you are unshakable, untouchable, and utterly unstoppable. Your scars are not just marks of survival. They are the permanent seals of your new authority. You have already won the battles that were designed to erase you, and now, there is nothing left to fear. The arsenal is empty. The trial is over. The fire has finally passed, and you are still here, still standing, still becoming. Before we close this word, let's seal this truth with a final, powerful declaration. This is not a mere closing. It is a spiritual finalization and an alignment with everything heaven has already written about you. Take a deep, sovereign breath, open your spirit, and let this word find its way into every space that still needs healing, fire, and absolute freedom. Father God, we come before you with a spirit of gratitude and complete reverence, thanking you for your relentless pursuit and the divine, absolute protection that covered us even when we did not know we needed it. Lord, thank you for pulling back the curtain of deceit and revealing the sharp, clear truth where there was only confusion. What they meant for harm, you have monumentally turned for good. What was meticulously designed to destroy us only served to reveal how deeply and permanently you have called and kept us. Father, for every storm meant to break us, we give you praise. For every betrayal that pushed us into isolation, thank you for using it to anchor us more deeply into you. For every chain that once bound us, we now lift our hands in definitive proof that you are still the God who shatters cycles and completely rewrites stories. Today we declare the old battles are definitively finished. The old pain is utterly expired. The verdict has already been issued from the highest court. We stand now in the unyielding authority of your word. We step forward not as victims with scars, but as vessels that are anointed, refined, and permanently resurrected. We decree that no weapon formed against us shall ever prosper, and every lying tongue that would dare to rise against us in judgment is hereby condemned, because you have ruled eternally in our favor. Let every generational curse be broken now. Poverty, fear, addiction, abandonment, shame. Let the line be drawn today. The curse ends here. Our children will walk in the freedom we secured. Our legacy will be rooted in righteousness, not regret. God, where there was lingering bitterness, plant deep, abiding wisdom. Where there was utter exhaustion, restore a new, endless strength. Where there was paralyzing fear, release pure, courageous faith. Let every scar on our soul become a seal of undeniable authority, proof that we walked through the fiercest fire and did not burn. Holy Spirit, elevate our spiritual frequency. Tune us to heaven's voice and its rhythm. Let us no longer react from old, unhealed wounds, but respond from a place of renewed, sovereign discernment. We declare that our spirit is now immune to all recycled weapons. The enemy no longer has legal access to our lives. The story has changed, and we will absolutely not go back. Lord, bless every person who hears this declaration. Let it stir something deep within their spirit, a divine and powerful reminder that they are chosen, covered, and commissioned for more. May your tangible presence fill their room, their heart, and their next powerful steps. We thank you for the enduring grace, the refining fire, and the unshakable truth that you have made all things new. We receive this new reality now, in the mighty and matchless name of Jesus Christ. Amen.